Hey everybody, today we're going to talk about baritones. So I did an orientation to the soprano concert tenor ukulele that are GCEA tuned, and I said I would do a separate one to talk about baritones because there are a couple special things to know about baritones and some secrets I can tell you. So first of all, the traditional baritone is a little bit bigger than a tenor. So here's my tenor, and here's my baritone Lenikai. Now, my tenor is tuned, like we talked about, GCEA. A traditional baritone is going to be tuned DGBE. DGBE. So same intervals between the strings, but instead of GCEA, it's DGBE. Now, before you turn that dial, let me tell you a couple secrets. One of them is there are strings for baritones where you can put GCEA strings on them, which I highly recommend trying. Because, you have to have multiple baritones, right? So in this particular baritone, I have GCEA strings on them. Has a nice full sound, right? GCEA. So if I learned, started out playing a tenor concert or something like that, I don't want to learn the fingerings of a baritone. I can put GCEA strings on a baritone and go to town. And that's an awesome way to do it. Highly recommend it. Now you can do a low G or a high G, and you can find strings for baritones like this lots of places. Strings by Mail, Uke Republic, Mainland, and lots of different places that you can do this. And so really, if you just go to a baritone and put GCEA strings on it, you're great. You don't have to do anything different. You can play along in the jam, fingering just like everybody else. So that's one way to do it. Now, if you want to go the traditional route, there are some things you can do. You use a DGBE tuned baritone. Then you can either learn the fingerings or you can transpose. So for example, something that's in the key of C on a soprano uke, a GCEA tuned uke, is going to be in the key of, if I switch it to the key of F on a baritone, it'll actually be in the key of C. But I can still think GCEA fingerings and not worry about learning new fingerings. So that's the first secret, right? So if they're playing along in C on a tenor and GCEA tuned, I can play along in F. The other thing that you can do, so let's try that for just a second so you can see what I'm talking about. So I'm just going to the C chord. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound. On this one, but it's the same key. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound. Okay, I'm going to share with you my cheat sheet here that'll let you transpose from GCEA to a DGBE tuned baritone, just so that you know, right? So you can use this chart or you can count up however it makes sense for you to do it. If you're starting off in the key of C, and that's the real key you're in, but you want to play a DGBE tuned baritone, you're going to change it to the key of F. You can count up, right? C, D, E, F. So you just count 4. If you're in A, B, C, D, you're going to switch it to D, right? If you're in G, A, B, C, you're going to switch it to C for a DGBE tuned baritone. You'll be in the same key as everybody else. This is just if you're thinking about those GCEA chord shapes and you don't want to learn the new chord shapes for a DGBE baritone, you just want to transpose the music. That's the big secret of this. So the other one is if you really wish, and this is maybe one of the big reasons that I started switching to baritone pretty early on, if you want to sing in the key of E, which isn't great to play in a GCEA tuning, unless it's like it's E major 7 or something, but if you want to play in the key of E, on a baritone that's D, G, B, E tuned, it's an A, which is a great key for use. So there's some other good reasons, right? Because there are just some keys that are not so great to play in a uke, or that, you know, they sound good, they just may not fall exactly like you want for all the riffs you're doing or whatever. But a different tuning like this gives you some options. So for those of you who are starting from scratch, or you have the mental wherewithal to know all the different fingerings and the different tunings, you may want to start with a DGBE tuned, especially if you're thinking you might transition to a guitar. If you're just starting fresh with uke and you haven't learned any of the GCEA tunings, if you have the ability to keep the different fingerings in your head between DGBE and GCEA, then you might want to start with a DGBE tuned. Because from here to guitar, it's not far, right? Guitar has E, A, D, G, B, E. So all we're missing for guitar are these strings, the E and the A, you know, like the bass strings. E, A, then we have D, G, B, E, and you have guitar. So you automatically be learning parts of guitar, right? That this is a D chord instead of a G chord. And it'll be an easier transition probably to guitar from here, if that's your plan. So those are just some different things you may or may not know about baritones, and if you've got places to get strings or other things you want to tell people who are thinking about getting started with a baritone, leave them in the comments. Baritone's a great uke to learn, and highly encourage it. Uke on.